Slipknot versus MushroomHead. So I'm going to talk about my top 13 songs, mixing both of these bands into the list, obviously based on my opinion. So these two bands are actually not among my favorites. I didn't put any of these songs on my top 100 list. If you've seen that, then you know I'm more of a fan of Tool, Nevermore, and also various underground bands like Evile and Clone. So I don't like everything Slipknot and MushroomHead have put out, but I think a lot of it is worth checking out because they both do heavy-ass music with good vocals, which I think is a relatively hard thing to find. I don't care for death metal vocals, or any sort of monotone screaming, and the only thing worse than that is power metal vocals, where they hit those ridiculous high notes. I know it takes talent to hit those notes, but I just can't stand it. It's like listening to nails on a chalkboard. So between all the monotone screaming and the power metal vocals out there, it's kind of hard to find the really heavy music I like with vocalists that actually hit different notes for vocal melody without doing the power metal nails on the chalkboard crap. And also without being totally clean, so the vocals still have some kind of grit and aggression while also hitting different notes at the same time. Both Slipknot and MushroomHead do that, even though they do mix in some screaming as well. So here are my picks. Number 13, Wait and Bleed by Slipknot. This is a nu metal song in terms of style, but it's actually not that heavy. That doesn't mean it isn't good. It's my 13th favorite MushroomHead or Slipknot song. But a song's heaviness is part of the way it sounds, so I'm going to describe that, because I'm a big fan of heavy music, even if a song's heaviness doesn't always correlate to how good it is. The opening riff, which is also used in the chorus, is basically a rock riff, played along with that cool vocal hook, the one that introduced a ton of people to Slipknot back in 1999. The verse goes up to a 7 with some fast guitar work, all on the low string. The bridge goes up to an 8 just after the halfway point. A bridge is just a section in the middle of a song that sounds different from the rest. After that, the finale goes up to a 9 for the last 10 seconds of the song. Number 12, How Many Times by MushroomHead. How Many Times has light ballad-like sections and then slams in heavy riffs to contrast them. There are a ton of rock and metal songs that go like that, much like Metallica's Fade to Black or Black Sabbath's Killing Yourself to Live. So I'm going to call those types of songs contrast metal songs for the rest of the video. This song has a light opening for the first minute, then the heavy riff comes in at a 9 and smashes that calmness. As the first booming riff starts, the song shifts, taking on an eerie feel that continues through both the lighter and heavier parts of the song, up until the melodic finale, which then releases that sinister tension in the last minute. 11. Indifferent by MushroomHead. This is another contrast metal song, opening with a mild industrial synth sound. Then it kicks it up with an intense sequence that starts at a 9, slides back briefly to a 4, and swells back to an 8 before dissipating out to the next verse. This section doesn't simply repeat, but changes throughout the song to make this more of a progressive metal song. Number 10 is Sun Doesn't Rise by MushroomHead. Sun Doesn't Rise is a great hard rock song with short metal riffs scattered throughout it. The verse riff grooves at about an 8, with a driving rhythm that smoothly transitions into the memorable melody of the hard rock chorus, dialing it back to a 6. The song periodically shifts back to heavier rhythms, but focuses more on the hook of the lighter chorus. 9. Duality by Slipknot. The intro of Duality quickly builds to a blustering high of short, intermittent power chords and tumultuous, higher-pitched note bending. The relatively short verse drops from that 9 back to about a 5, with rapidly intonated palm muting and calmly spoken lyrics. An intense, screaming transition brings things up to an 8, then back down to a 6 for the head-nodding rhythm and soaring vocals of the chorus. The bridge near the end is very similar to the punchy high point of the intro. It then seems to escalate as the percussion behind it steps things up. After one more chorus, the same short intermittent power chords and note bending come back a third time, slowing down and then revving up to full speed again at the song's end. Number 8, The Feel by MushroomHead. This song has quiet and loud streaks, like a contrast song, drifting between 1 and 8. But even the heavy parts are slow-paced and maintain a ballad-like atmosphere. I call that type of song a hard ballad. The peaceful opening falls away in the face of reverberating power chords at about 30 seconds in. The power chord progression descends in pitch, creating an ominous effect. This number also adds and mixes riffs and new successions that culminate in the second half of this compelling progressive metal hard ballad. Number 7 is Before I Forget by Slipknot, which holds its heaviness at about an 8 throughout both the dynamic rhythms of the verse and the vibrant chain of chords and epic vocal hook of the chorus. This song de-escalates to a 4 only at the short bridge just after the halfway point, then quickly climbs back to a 6 and then to an 8 before the last chorus leads into the boisterous cries of the closing. 6. If Rain Is What You Want by Slipknot. Like the number 8 song, this is a hard ballad with progressive elements in the second half. It has nightmarish, echoing low points that ascend into resonant, flowing power chords, bringing the heaviness to an 8 before drifting back again. At 3 minutes and 40 seconds, the bridge booms up to a 9 with a pulsing, more upbeat riff, which then climbs to a thrilling, thunderous progression and moving vocal melody at the song's apex. After declining back to an 8 again and falling back to the slower, ballad-like pace, the finale rallies one more time before fading and dwindling away in the last minute. At number 5, it's MushroomHead with Darker Days. This opens with a fast, upbeat, very rock and roll sounding riff, but then spouts abruptly into an epic groove metal riff, just surging from a 4 to an 8. That same sequence later serves as the pre-chorus and chorus riffs. The verse riff that follows at about a 7 is similar to the pre-chorus riff, but with furious palm muting added in between the lead notes. At 2 minutes in, yet a third variation of the opening/pre-chorus riff is used in the bridge before morphing effortlessly back into the first variation. The rhythm section then downshifts into the slower-paced finale, as the groove metal chorus riff follows the last pre-chorus and winds down in the last minute of the song. Slipknot's got number 4 with Psychosocial. The verse riff marches along at a 9 with an intense power chord sequence. The chorus riff then falls to an 8 with a more vibrant chord progression and an infectious vocal run that's sure to stick in your head. At 2 minutes and 20 seconds, there's a neat speedy guitar solo that plays well off the verse riff following the second chorus, as well as the chorus riff after that. The end of the solo leads directly into the bridge, which pummels you with spasmodic bouts of quick palm muting and cool note bending before one more verse and chorus close it all out. 3 is Come On by MushroomHead. The opening riff kicks off at an 8. The verse then hits a 10 with the interval blaring of deep, resonant palm muting that just shakes your bones. The opening riff comes back several times, often as a pre-chorus from which the chorus riff elevates the song to a 9 with an electrifying, absolutely commanding groove metal riff. At different points, the pre-chorus is swapped out for a simple rhythm change. The bridge rattles you at 2 minutes and 39 seconds with more big, booming, ultra-resonant palm muting, which is then followed up by one more verse, rhythm change, and epic chorus. Number 2 is MushroomHead's Devil Be Damned. After a short intro, we get a heavy rhythm palm muted at a 9, which later becomes a pre-chorus riff. The rhythm loses a little bit of heaviness as it sprints off at an 8 with a cacophony of a verse that has faster palm muting interrupted here and there by quick streaks of lead notes. A brief synth interlude drops from the 9 of the pre-chorus into the 8 of the ominous, descending power chords and captivating vocal melody of the chorus. The bridge is a quiet downturn that de-escalates from the speedy verse riff preceding it, while invoking a subtle anticipatory response. The song then throws you back for one more verse riff and powerful, ominous chorus. That brings us to number 1, which is Harvest the Garden by MushroomHead. We have a 1 minute 19-second percussion-based intro, and toward the end of it, power chords slide up one full note at a time, foreshadowing part of the dynamite chorus that's coming later. The verse riff starts with deep, thunderous palm muting alternated with turbulent lead guitar licks that bounce the riff from a 10 to a 4 and back again. The chorus riff at about a 9 moves you to an invigorated state with an absolutely compelling power chord progression, intervaled with a catchy head-nodding rhythm and soaring vocal hooks. The bridge dials back the energy to a mellow mood, then climbs back to an 8 using the same power chords from the intro. It then changes over to a different rhythm before ascending back to the chorus riff one last time. So by now it's clear I'm more into MushroomHead than Slipknot. Yeah, Slipknot. Sometimes they're boring, sometimes their fast songs sound a bit disjointed, or they sacrifice rhythm and punch for speed because they're not broken up into shorter bursts like good faster metal usually is. A lot of their songs sound too repetitive as well. Now MushroomHead has plenty of songs like that too, so here's a list of what I recommend. Hopefully I can save people the trouble of combing through the discographies of mediocre bands to find the good stuff. Here's 3 hard ballads, 6 rock songs, 2 contrast songs, and 9 straight-up metal songs, with the ones I've already talked about highlighted in red.